Hello everyone and welcome back to the Barely Bookish podcast. Today we are going to be talking about Alice in Wonderland with Leah from YA Book Chat. So if you haven't read Alice in Wonderland yet, please go back and read it really quick before you start the episode so you don't get any spoilers. This episode's a lot of fun. We're going to talk about a lot of what we think Lewis Carroll might have been on while he was, writing Alice in Wonderland, because this book is absolutely insane. So please join us. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. And yeah, that's kind of all I've got up here in the intro, but I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Hello everyone and welcome back to Barely Bookish. We are now discussing Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, which I've been wrongfully calling Alice in Wonderland my entire life. So there's that. But I am joined by Leah from the YA Book Chat.
Hey everybody.
And Leah, do you want to tell them a little bit about your podcast?
Sure. Like Rachel said, my podcast is called YA Book Chat. And each episode, I cover a different young adult book, fiction, fantasy, dystopian, all of it. And my guest and I will talk for the first about 15 minutes, spoiler free. And then after that, we kind of do a little bit more of a deep dive in there with all the spoilers and just have a lot of fun with it. And I do author interviews as well.
Yeah, and they are very good. And
Thank
by
you.
this time this episode comes out, my episode on YA Book Chat will be live with The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which,
Yes.
very much in the same vein of Alice in Wonderland's mispronunciation for my entire life of the title. I mispronounce every single character that ever exists in the Hunger Games universe.
It's all right. There are just I've just learned that there are just certain books and characters and things I am never going to pronounce correctly, and that is okay. So
Any Sarah J. Maas character.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So first thoughts on Alice in Wonderland. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Oh my goodness. We'll get there. We'll get there. First thoughts. I knew this was going to be weird going into it, mostly because Tim Burton made a movie on it. So if Tim Burton makes a movie on it, like, it's going to be good, but it's going to be strange,
Yes, definitely. Gonna be honest here. Now, I have read Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and the second book as well a long time ago. Have seen, like, I can't even tell you how many different movie versions of this. But I have definitely in my life had the thought, especially when reading the book, because there's so much more detail in it. I've definitely had the thought of, was Lewis Carroll high when he wrote portions of this book? Because,
Absolutely.
yeah.
There's no way he wasn't. Like, my man was zooted, straight zooted. Like, I'm reading this and I'm like, he was hungry the entire time he's writing it. First off, like, man was parched. He was starving. Someone should have brought him some, like, post smoke snacks.
Seriously.
And to even, like, think about the Cheshire Cat at all.
Oh gosh.
Like, and then that child turning into a pig, I was like, man,
Right?
Are you good? Like, is everything okay?
No, yeah. I don't think that he was okay. Like, I mean, yeah, some of the stuff that happens, you're like, okay, this is a really trippy dream that this chick is having right now. Like, she's like 7 years old and she's having the trippiest dream ever. So somebody was on something when this book was done.
I mean, they're prescribing, like, when this book was written, they were probably still prescribing cocaine as a medical health. And, if it wasn't that point, it was probably the point where Coke was in Coca-Cola. Either way, it makes sense.
That's right. Much agreed.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we're going to have a lot to talk about as we go through this. So starting off, before we even get to chapter 1, there's this very long poem, and I'm not good at poetry, so I'm reading through. I read through it 3 times as I was waiting for my food to arrive, and I'm just sitting here and I'm like, we'll come back to that later. It seems like he might be saying that like there's two girls, and then I was like, okay, I think he's telling the story of Alice, maybe like giving
Maybe.
them like settings, something like they're having a long, rough day on the ocean paddling. Like my other thing is I forget that like it's not 2020 parenting and that people just
Right.
didn't care what their children did. So I'm like, are these girls in danger? Should like someone call the police? Like CPS, like we can reach out if you really need us to, because they're just off into either at least a lake, maybe ocean somewhere, paddling on
Uh-huh.
oars. I think Alice is the oldest and she seems to be like 6, 7, maybe. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I definitely, agree. I mean, I don't know what's going on, but it's definitely about Alice
mhm.
and her adventures in Wonderland and all that happens there. So, yeah. But I mean, and this isn't the only poem in the book
Yeah.
either. He's got multiple poems in this one and in the second book too.
Mm.
Just wait.
Are they written by him or is he using like are these poems that exist? Do you know?
No, I'm pretty sure he wrote these.
Okay. They're just strange enough that I'm like, I think he had to have written them himself.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think he could have found anything more perfect to fit in with this story. I'm pretty sure that he wrote them himself.
Yeah, that's for sure. So then we get to chapter 1, Down the Rabbit Hole. This part I knew existed
Hmm.
because Tim Burton. My other thing, as I'm going through and reading this, I didn't really know that she was a child until like a few into it because in Tim Burton and in Disney, I thought they were like teenagers. So
Right.
it's really weird that like this teenage girl goes into a rabbit hole on a whim. Like,
Well, the Tim Burton movie, she is a teenager,
mhm,
but she doesn't, because that movie takes place like 10 years after she went down the rabbit hole.
mm,
That's why I know it's kind of
yeah,
weird at first, but the Tim Burton movie is the first one is when it's not her first time in Wonderland. It's like her second time or not even second. Like she used to go there all the time when she was little, but now she's older and hasn't been down there in like, 9 or so years. And so then that's why they're like, is she the right Alice? Is she the right one? Because they don't recognize her because she is a teenager.
mm,
But it takes place after that.
okay.
That's
I
why
haven't
that one's a
seen
little
these in many
confusing.
years.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a long time.
Yeah, that's why that one seems confusing. Because when I
Okay.
first started watching that one too, I was like, why is she so old? And then I realized when she got to Wonderland and they were trying to figure out if she was the correct Alice, I went, oh, okay, this takes place after her original visit. Got it. So
Yeah.
that's why. Yeah, because she's only like 7 or 8 or something. She's pretty young.
Yeah. I like realized that later when she's trying to like go through her lessons. I'm like, oh, it's a child.
Hmm.
So then we get the iconic scene of a talking rabbit saying it's going to be late, and it takes like a pocket watch out and of his waistcoat. First of all, I love this dapper little gentleman has a
I
waistcoat
know.
on, but he's a rabbit, so he can't wear pants.
No.
The
It's so
very
it's a very fun image.
Mhm. I love it. He's a dapper gentleman from the waist up only. Love that.
Mhm.
It's like when you see those dogs in snowsuits because like,
Yes.
oh, I love it.
They just have, like, the dog jacket on and
Yeah.
nothing else.
Or
It's
whenever someone
cute.
puts any sort of animal in a bow tie, I'm like, "Yes, thank you."
Yes. I picture okay, so this is gonna he's the white rabbit, I feel like is such a very easy kind of, like, steampunk costume to do, like,
Yeah.
it just fits in so well. That's what I picture. I'm picturing steampunk rabbit, but,
It's because Mad Hatter feels very steampunk. Whenever you
Yes.
see the Mad Hatter, you don't see him like a dapper gentleman Mad Hatter. He's
Mm-mm.
mad. He's gotta be steampunky. Like,
That's right.
absolutely love it. And then I
Yeah,
always think Johnny Depp.
of
I
course.
can't. He's perfect. Tim
He
Burton
is.
knows how to pick his main actor and actresses. Like
Mhm.
Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham
Helena
Carter.
Bonham Carter, yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
I
he was married to her,
Yeah. He
so
knows how to pick them. 'em. I'm
oh,
saying
yeah.
it.
I mean, they're in all of his movies pretty
Hmm.
much.
She's such a diverse actress. I'm obsessed with her.
Me too. I love her. She's one of my all-time favorites.
Ugh, yes. So then Alice jumps down the rabbit hole with the rabbit, and that's my first cue. And I'm like, how old is this girl? Like, oh my goodness. So then she free falls down this rabbit hole for some unknown period of time. Like getting to the point, the thing that really kind of throws me is someone decorated the free fall spot. Like there's hung up pictures and artwork. And I'm like, so
Uh-huh.
who free falled enough that they were like going all on their way down? They're like, let me just hit the edge so I can hang this painting just ever so slightly, and then I'll continue my free fall, and then I'll go again just so I can decorate free fall space.
I mean, I envision it as the rabbit having done it because he was up there in her land in the first
Mhm.
place. So I've always thought it's the rabbit's hole. It's just his hole, and
Oh.
he's decorated and put all the stuff to occupy himself as he makes this extremely, incredibly long fall from top to bottom.
I
He
mean,
needs something to occupy himself.
I always thought it was like a multi-use rabbit hole. Like I didn't figure that,
Hmm.
oh, that probably makes sense is he made this rabbit hole himself. He knows where his rabbit hole location is. No one
Yeah.
else knows where rabbit hole location is.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I've always thought of it, but who knows? I mean, it's so open to interpretation. It could be anything.
Do you think the author even knows? Like,
I think Lewis Carroll does know.
I
I
know,
think he knows.
Ouija board. Who hung paintings?
Who is it, Lewis Carroll?
Was this a common use rabbit hole? Let us know. I just get yes and
Oh,
no because he doesn't want to respond to
doesn't
me.
want to answer. Mm-mm.
So then this is where they started implying that she was a little kid because she's like going over her own lessons in her head while she's,
Mhm.
free falling, which is not how I would spend my last minutes, but like go off, Alice, I guess.
Well, and she talks about Dinah too, her kitty cat, and tea time, and all of those things. And
Yeah.
nonsense, of course, just nonsense.
Just straight nonsense. She
Yep.
tries to recite something and then realizes she
Oh
doesn't really
gosh.
remember it.
Yep.
And she free fell for so long, she almost fell asleep. And like at this point, I'm like, no wonder Mr. Rabbit or mixed rabbit, I don't know the rabbit gender. This rabbit is free falling. Like, yeah, they're gonna be late. Like,
Hmm.
who knows how long this is taking?
Right?
This free fall is not a quick
No.
experience. Like, if you don't leave for your appointment at least an hour early, you're not gonna have time for the free fall. You're gonna have to take the expressway to get
Oh
back to
yeah.
Wonderland.
Definitely, because it is the longest fall ever.
Yeah. And then my next note is Alice doesn't take fall damage.
No, no, right? She falls that whole way and then she just kind of like lands on her bottom, boop, and she's fine.
Yeah.
No, no issues whatsoever. So apparently it was like a very comfortable, slow, flowing fall as if she had a parachute or something. I don't know.
Do you think the rabbit can control the speed of the fall and then as soon as they're getting close to the end, they like slow it down so that they like fall
Hmm.
gracefully? And that's why it matters the timing because you have to depend on how long you can allow yourself to fall gracefully for and if you break a ankle at the end or not.
It's a very good question. I mean, anything is possible in Wonderland. So I suppose that that is very possible. I don't
You gotta set
know.
your speed before you jump into the rabbit hole.
Yes. Let me put my timer on my belt and set it to slow, medium,
The
and
real
then
reason
jump.
he gets the pocket watch is actually the speed controls.
Yes. To tell time and control it while he's falling. Yes.
Yeah, literally. So then Alice follows this rabbit because somehow the rabbit's still just in front of her,
Uh-huh.
into the weird hallway with a bunch of random locked doors. And then she finds this microscopic door and she's like, yeah, that's the door I want, but it's
Right?
locked.
The tiny one.
I don't know why
Uh,
that seems the best one for her, but
Probably because it's the most unusual one. I mean, she is a very curious little girl. So and actually, I would say too, if it were me and I'm in a hallway with all of these doors, and I've got a ton of them that are all very similar and the same size. And then I notice one that's different. I'm going to go for the one that's different too, just because it's different.
Yeah. I think if I saw a small, tiny door that I think she said it's like 9 inches tall, I'd look at that and I'd go, "Oh, look, a fey door. Not going there."
Yes. You don't know what's going to happen in the fairy world. So watch
Don't give them your name. Don't make any agreements. Don't thank
out.
them for a single thing. I'm not
Mm-mm.
going through the fey door. It's like purposely stepping into a mushroom ring. I'm not interested. Like,
Because you just don't know which type of fairies you're going to find. Are we going to have nice fey creatures? Or are we going to have like the evil, nasty ones? You
see,
just don't know what's there.
my luck, I would just step through the fey door and then end up with a Tamlin on the other side, and he's gonna be like, now you're my wife," and I'd be like, "Oh, sorry, hold on."
I'm sorry, I need to leave now. No.
Uh,
I don't
so
know.
she then finds this key to unlock a tiny, tiny door that she can't even
Mhm.
fit her head through, and she's like really mad that she suddenly can't fit through this door. And so then she takes the key out. And all I could think is that some entity is leading her through this entire world because now there's like a
Mhm.
little drink me potion to make her smaller.
Right. And, you know, as I'm reading this now, I read this first when I was little. And so I probably didn't think anything of it when I was younger. But as an adult now, reading it, and even when I watch the movie sometimes, I just think clearly this child's parents never taught her about not to eat or drink anything that
Yeah.
she didn't know what it was. Because she's just like, oh, well, it doesn't look like it's marked as poison. So sure, why not? I'm going to drink it. What bad could happen? Oh gosh, nobody taught her anything.
It's funny being raised as a Gen Z kid because it's like whenever I see something to like eat or drink, I'm like, are there razor blades in there? Because I just remember that like one year that everyone was like, don't, when you go trick or treating, like inspect your kids'
Oh
food because they're
gosh.
putting razor blades in them. And then sometimes they're hallucinogenics. And I'm like, if you're paying for hallucinogenics, like you're not giving them away to small children for free.
Yeah. No, you're not. Yikes. Anyway, I still just think like, what are you doing, Alice?
No.
But whatever. She drinks it. I mean, she
Yeah.
drinks it. She's curious. That's what it is. She's just so curious. She
She's
can't
yeah,
help herself.
she's just so trusting, and it shocks me
Yes.
every single time.
After a while, I was kind of like, all right, whatever. I'm just used to this now. She's just going to do this. It's like reading a book where, oh gosh, you ever read these books where like the main character just makes the same stupid mistake over and over, or like they just keep making stupid mistakes in general, making bad choices. And you're like, oh, again, because they just keep doing something stupid. And you're like, no, no. Do you see what's happening here? Like, I don't want my main character to be stupid. I mean, she's not like stupid, stupid, but she just doesn't think things through.
It's
She
like when
lets
they're
the curiosity
willfully
get the better of her.
yeah, it's like when they're willfully ignorant, and I'm like, "Oh, come
Mhm.
on." Like, or they let the bad guy go right at the very end, and they don't, like, kill
Yes.
them after they spent the entire time hunting them down to kill them. I'm like, "Come
Mhm.
on.
Yeah.
No."
Hmm.
So now she's 10 inches tall, and she can fit through the
Yes.
door. But she's a child and a moron and left the key on the tabletop that she can now no
Oh,
longer
no.
reach. And
Oh,
apparently this is a
Alice.
self-locking door too.
Yes, because she opened it,
Mhm.
and then I'm like, "Does it just close automatically again? Because it's closed." And I was like, "But she just had it open, and it doesn't say that the door closed." Like,
Yeah.
she just goes back and it's closed again. And I'm like, "Okay,
Like this
I
entity
don't
is
know."
helping her, but only to a point, I guess.
That's what I think too. Yeah. I don't know.
So now she's like distraught that she's can't reach this key. Tries to like climb the legs of this table, that doesn't work. And she's like about to start crying and then sees random cake on the ground, first off. And she's like, "Oh, you know what I should do? Eat the ground cake." And she nibbles on
Well,
it.
it is. It is in a box, at least. It
Yeah,
is
but
in a
I'm
box,
like,
at least.
wow, she has no self-preservation at all. She's like, "Yeah, sure,
No.
whatever, ground cake, that looks good to me." Like, I don't care if it's in a box. Once it gets put on the ground for some unknown amount of time, I'm like, "Yeah, mm."
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, she probably figured, well, I mean, she drank the drink. So what the heck difference is it going to make if she eats the cake at this point?
She didn't even inspect it for a
I don't
poison
know.
symbol this time.
No, she didn't. At least she did that with the drink.
I
The
know.
cake was just like, oh, it says eat me. It's gonna eat me. It must make me larger. Okay. Eats the whole thing. Okay, great, Alice. Good thought.
I know. She's getting more and more trusting as this goes on. Like, that gets really obvious in the last chapter that we read, but I'll get
Yes.
there. So then chapter 2, The Pool of Tears.
Mm. This is a chapter where my like biggest dilemma comes in, and we'll talk about it when we get there.
Cannot wait. So now instead of like going back to her normal size, she becomes gigantic. She's like 9 feet tall. And she's so tall that she can't even see her feet. And now she's talking
No.
to her feet like they have feelings.
She- that part always makes me laugh because I'm just envisioning this like super tall giant girl looking down, like not even being able to see her feet. You know what it reminds me of when I was pregnant, because your belly does get so big that you look down, you literally can't see your feet. And so I remember like popping a foot, like it's still there, right?
I love that. It's just really funny to me. 'Cause she's like, I promise I'll get you a new pair of shoes every Christmas. So then the rabbit comes over again. But then because she's 9 feet tall, when she talks to it, she scares the living daylights out of it. And the rabbit just sprints off.
Which I always find hilarious.
I know. I mean, I would be scared too. You expect to see no one, and then you see a 9-foot woman. I'd be like, okay,
I'm out. See you
yeah,
later.
yeah, nice to meet you.
Hmm.
I'm
Poor
gonna
little
go.
bunny.
Yeah, the bunny's like 2 feet tall, probably,
I
maybe. I don't know how tall
know.
bunnies get, but
I have no idea.
Okay, I've seen some long bunnies, so I feel like 1 foot to 2 foot tall is a good number.
Yeah, I think so.
Would have been really scary when she was about 9 inches tall. I'll be like, 'cause then she'd be basically a cockroach to this bunny.
Yes.
So, Alice thinks that now, the only solution is that she's now transformed into a different person. And she's trying to figure out how smart she is to figure out which one of her friends she is. And because she can't remember things, she decides that she's must be Merle because Merle is not very smart. Or Mabel,
Yes,
sorry, Mabel is not
Mabel.
very smart.
Which I'm always, yeah, she just makes me laugh. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that part made me laugh.
then she says, because then she says that she doesn't want to go back home because she doesn't want to be Mabel. She wants to stay down there just in case.
Because Mabel doesn't have any good toys.
No.
Now she's like, okay, now I'm too tall. So she drinks more of the potion and starts shrinking again. And I'm just like, I hope your body's fine after all of this because you honestly it's like when the kids started drinking Monster Energy at like 9 years
Oh
old
gosh.
and like everyone stunted their growth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling the
Agreed.
same thing.
And she does it so many times throughout the entire book that you think, okay, this is going to affect her somehow, which actually it kind of does, but we'll talk about that in the next episode. I feel like it kind of does by the time you get to the end of the book, but yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fun from your perspective seeing so because you've got more detail on it because you've read it a couple times.
Mhm.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
So, okay, she gets small again. And then she forgot the key on the table again. Like, how many times do we have to
Stupid
go through this
girl.
entire process?
Like, take the key off of the table,
Put
put
it
it
in your
in your
pocket.
pocket because her dress does have pockets. So, put it in the pocket. It's not that difficult, but she cannot remember to do that.
I know. She's just so consumed with her height that she can't remember
Hmm.
to just, you know.
Yeah.
But I forgot to mention when she was gigantic, she started bawling.
Yes.
So now when she shrank, she is stuck in an ocean of her 9-foot woman tears,
Yes.
and everyone's kind of drowning.
Okay. So this is the part that always causes me to stop and reflect. Because here's what kind of happens. She cried, right? She makes this huge pool of tears. But
Mhm.
then it's like the doors in the hallway just disappear
Yeah.
completely. And she's just waiting in this pool of tears, and all of a sudden all these animals start to show up. Like she's just I'm like, what happened to the hallway and the doors? Because she doesn't even go through the little door
Yeah.
at all. They just all of it just disappears, and she's just swimming in the pool, and all of a sudden these animals show up and she's not in the hallway anymore. This has always been my big, because even in the movies, the
Mhm.
variety of different ones, it's like that too. And you're always like, what? How did that happen? How did that room, that whole hallway of doors just magically disappear?
Mhm.
And her tears just carried her somewhere without even going through a door. It's always been my one kind of little like, I'm not sure about this.
I just decided the deity decided that she was done with that room, and she's like, "All right, moving on. You can't figure this out. Anyways, let's go. Like we're going somewhere else now. We're going to get you there, but not the same way. You need to learn some lessons and some problem solving first."
Yeah, somebody was definitely helping her along there because I'm doing some magic spells or something to make that happen.
Because that was way too many chances of like her shrinking and regrowing
Oh gosh.
for and like her not getting the key for them to be like, "Do we do this again? No, send in the pool of tears. I'm done. Let's move on."
Time to go. We need to get Alice into Wonderland now and move forward.
Yeah. Because honestly, I think we would have been there all day had
Right.
they just kept doing this because she just can't remember to grab the key.
I don't know. Maybe Lewis Carroll was just like, I don't know how to get her out of this hallway now. This is the best thing I can come up with. I don't know.
He's like, "All right,
She's
pool tears." It's like she's a kid. Kids cry. Okay.
works. It's fine. Everybody will forget that the doors just disappear. Whatever. Not a big deal.
Yeah, he's like, "Only kids are ever gonna read this. I don't need to think too hard." And then
Mm,
us adults were like,
I
we're
don't
gonna think
know.
about it." So now there's a mouse swimming in the water,
Yes.
and she starts talking to the mouse, and she can't help herself but bring up like ways the mouse could die. And then it's like, wow, this mouse is super sensitive. Like, you just need to grow a pair, mouse. Like, get some thicker skin, okay? And she just keeps like being like, "Yeah, I have a cat. My cat likes to hunt mice." And the mouse is like, She goes, "Okay, fine. We won't talk about cats. How about dogs? I know this
Yeah.
dog that hunts and on the farm and he catches the best mice." Oh, whoops.
She's like one of those people who just doesn't think about anything before it comes out of their mouth. It's just
Yeah.
there's no filter between brain and mouth. It just comes right out. And then she's like, "Oh, whoopsies, too late. Now I've offended the mouse and now he's mad and he's going to go away."
I know. So not only is she just like chatting with this mouse, but like every creature in existence falls out of the sky. And like
Yeah.
for some reason, there's a bunch of birds there too. And I'm like, the birds could have just flown out of the ocean. Why are they here?
Right? Thank you. Why does the dodo bird and there's a duck. There's a duck. Like why does the duck feel like it's stuck in there? And a
Well,
lorry and an eaglet.
aren't dodos flightless, or am I just thinking about kiwis?
I don't know. They might be flightless as well. That would make sense.
I
But
think
not a
they're
duck.
extinct. Yeah, ducks are not flightless.
I
They
mean, why
they can
doesn't the
fly.
duck? Maybe he was just having a good old swim and enjoying it. I
Yeah, he
don't
was just
know.
chilling. But like the rest of them, like ducks, I don't think have to air out their feathers when they go swim.
Mm-mm. I
So I
mean,
know
they just like shake them off.
Yeah, I know some birds have to, you know, dry and bask in the sun and then they become flyable again. I don't remember which birds, but some do. But I don't
Right.
think ducks are one of them, but I could be wrong. I'm not a duck specialist. This is not a duck podcast. But it was just weird to
Uh,
me.
yes, I agree.
Yeah. So then they all swim to shore. Then we're on to chapter 3. a caucus race and a long tail.
Oh.
So there's all the animals. Everyone's soaked to the bone. They're hanging out on the shore. And they're trying to figure out the best way to get dry before they catch a cold. And the mouse is like, I know the driest thing I've ever seen, like ever heard. And starts telling them this story about like an emperor, I think. And she's like, I'm actually kind of entertained. And he's like, how dare you be entertained? So that doesn't work. And the dodo's like, what about a caucus race? Which I'm gonna be honest, every time I say caucus, it feels wrong. Like it feels like I'm saying something bad. You know? I feel
Yes, I totally get it.
like I know it's close to Caucasian, but like caucus just sounds to me either like a disease
Mhm.
or like it kind of feels like a slur, and I'm just kind of nervous saying it. And like,
It's all right. I just we'll just say race.
yeah,
Just race.
yeah. So then they're like, okay, we're gonna do a race. And the way they describe this race, it just sounds like they're all going for a run in different groups.
Yes, like, it's like they're just running in circles or in a circle, and
Yeah.
that's about it, just to see if they dry off from running around. And I'm always picturing, like, okay, Alice was just in this pool of water. She's got a dress on
Mhm.
and stockings, it
And
would seem.
pantyhose.
Right, and then the shoes, and I'm like, "It's gonna take her a long time to dry off from that sucker." I mean, unless it's, like, 90 degrees outside. Running around, I mean, yeah, it's gonna take a while. But doesn't it say that they run for, like, an hour or something?
30 minutes, half an
30
hour.
minutes.
But
Okay,
it's
yeah.
like the thing is too, is they're in England. Like during the summer, max England gets is like 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's like
True.
hot, you know? And
It's
also
true.
think about it. She's not probably just wearing like a play dress. She's probably got like a couple layers of like whatever that
Mhm.
tulle situation is, like that
Yes.
underdress to make it poofy. So she's never gonna dry off. Like it's just
Uh-uh.
not gonna happen.
No. That's just kinda now see, and then I sit here and I think about it like, "Oh gosh, running for 30 minutes. Who wants to do that?" I'd be done after like 2 minutes. "I'm done. You guys run. I'll dry later."
I'm telling you right now, if I was soaked to the bone, I'm just taking the shoes off because those will never dry. You just tie
No.
those laces, you put them around your neck. That's what you got to do. There's no way those are ever getting dry. Um, the dress, I would take out all the layer of tulle, just throw it away.
Mhm.
It's no longer
Yep.
worth anything to me. And then hope and pray for the rest of it.
Agreed.
But I'm not
Yeah.
running and for 30 minutes in probably terrible shoes or
Right?
barefoot,
Mm-mm.
destroying my feet when I could just stand still and eventually dry. Well, they said
Agreed.
they were shivering, so it has to be cold out too. Remember?
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. I guess maybe you gotta do what you gotta do. Although I kind of feel like Alice went along with it just because that's what everybody else was doing. And so
yeah,
she just kind of did it. And again, she's not necessarily the brightest girl. So I feel like she's just
truly.
like, well, if that's what we're supposed to do, that's what we're supposed to do, you know?
Yeah. Well, she thought a story might warm her clothes, so
Oh gosh.
so then okay, because also the other rule of this race is it doesn't necessarily have to be a circle. So they're
Hmm.
just running basically, and the dodo says that to stop, and they're like, "Okay, but who won?" And he's like, "Everyone won, and we all need prizes." And then they look over at Alice, and they're like, "Alice, you have prizes." And she's like, "What are you talking? Oh yeah, yeah, mm, just these what are they called? Biscuits, cookies,
uh,
something like that."
see,
Oh,
comfits
comfits,
or
comfits.
comfits.
Yeah,
I mean, what are those?
I
What
think it's
are
like a cookie.
comfits?
I think it's a
Must
cookie.
be,
Like some sort of bakery good situation. But she's like,
probably,
"Oh yeah, these didn't get wet. Thank goodness." And everyone, we have
right?
enough for exactly one. But there's no description that she got that this morning, how she got these or how they came to be in her pockets. Also, how big are her
Mhm.
pockets? Because there seems to be like
Right?
6 or 7 people there.
So if she's got I mean, who's got pockets big enough to carry a box of cookies?
Men. Men have pockets big enough to carry
True,
boxes.
true. But I don't apparently Alice does too in this dress that she's got. It must be some fantastic dress.
Honestly, just give me the clothing pattern for Alice's dress because it sounds life-changing. It
I
dries quickly.
agree, right?
It's somehow stretchy and comfortable enough that you can go for a run. Water resistant, I
Oh,
guess.
okay. I looked it up
Mhm.
because I was curious to really know what a comfit is. They're like jelly beans. They're like jelly. It says, literally says though, a candy consisting of a nut, seed, or other center coated in sugar. And like some of these pictures show like they look, I mean, they look like they're jelly beans, like the long,
Okay, so they're small.
colorful things. Yeah, they're small.
That sounds
So
kinda
that would
terrible,
make
though.
sense. Yeah.
I don't want one. I'm not interested. No, thank you. I don't like jelly beans, though.
The most popular comfits in England were those made with caraway seeds. They were
Hmm,
consumed at the end of a meal. I wonder if it was supposed to be like a palate cleanser type of thing.
maybe. Seems like a
They're,
trash reward system, though.
yeah, these are
I was
weird.
I was thinking cookie. So, yeah, she somehow has all those. Um, and then she starts to say a poem to the mouse about the mouse being condemned to death. And the mouse is like, "What? Like, you don't know anything about the court case that I'm in." And she's just like, "Oh, yeah, I just have this poem." And then the mouse leaves, and everyone's like, "Oh, don't be like the mouse, don't leave." And then she starts talking about her cat, and all the birds are like, and everyone leaves. So then
Yeah.
Alice is alone again.
I'm out. No, no cats or anything. And they all just leave. Poor
Yeah.
Alice.
She can't make friends,
No, she really can't. She just doesn't know how to hold a good conversation without offending somebody.
literally. So then, chapter 4, the rabbit sends in a little bill. This is funnier knowing the title, like reading the title
Uh-huh.
again after I know what happens, but reading the
Mhm.
title for the title for the first time, like this is one of the few stories that the title doesn't really give anything away. Like that's my big irk with chapter titles is like J.K. Rowling was really, really bad about this. Is every one of her titles gives away the chapter of what's to
Mm.
come.
Yeah.
Either that or the illustration does. So
Yeah, you definitely cannot tell with his chapter titles.
yeah.
And even because like there are okay, so the version of the book that I have, there are some illustrations in it, and there is an illustration on the next page with chapter 4, and it just shows Alice in the White Rabbit's house. So you can't even there's nothing about little Bill in it at all.
See, I have the paper mill press one. Isn't that cute?
Ooh, I like that. I like
Yeah.
the cover of that.
I'm obsessed with it, and that's got, like, this little toadstool situation on the back.
Hmm,
It's
that's
very
cute.
cute, but I don't have any illustrations in it, which is kinda sad, but, oh, I got one at the very end, but I'm into it, I like the cover. I did buy that solely because of the cover, and I was like, "Eventually, I'll have someone that wants to read it," and then you're like, "I'll read it," and I was like, "Yes, worthwhile
Done.
purchase."
Yes.
So, for some reason, the rabbit thinks her name is Mary Ann and tells her to run home and find a pair of gloves and fan for them. And Alice is just frightened of this rabbit at this point, and she's like, "Okay, sure, cool, cool, cool," and runs over to the rabbit's house because apparently there was no other rabbit house, but it
Right.
was titled W Rabbit.
Right. So that works.
Yeah, it works. Um, and finds gloves and a fan, and then she finds another bottle labeled "Drink Me," and she's like, "Yeah, all right, will do." Like, no reason for her to shrink or grow at all, but she's like,
Nope.
"Yeah, yeah, yeah, I'll totally drink your beverage."
She's just she just can't help herself. But the other thing that always gets me here is how he does think that she's Marianne. And I always think, okay, so does she like Marianne's like doppelganger? I mean, does she
Yeah,
look just like Marianne?
is Marianne her
Or is
mom?
he, I mean, like because how could you not recognize your own maid?
Yeah,
You know? Like how so either the rabbit's eyesight is not what it used to be, or she's got to be like pretty close to looking the same thing as Marianne,
I mean, he probably eats a lot of carrots, so I
right?
mean,
You
his
would think he'd
eyesight's
have
got to
good
be good.
eyesight.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
who's Marianne and where's Marianne? Like, what is she doing?
Yeah, she has disappeared. I don't know where Marianne is.
Did he just make up a name for Allison? It's like, you look like a Marianne.
You know what? That's really possible. I've actually never thought about it like that before, but he could have. I mean, why not? Like I'm just gonna like because he's think about it. He's running around doing errands for other people, right? Like he does stuff for the king and queen, and then he does stuff for the duchess. And so now he's like, maybe he's just like, you know what? I need somebody to boss around. I don't know who this girl is, but we're just going to call her Marianne, and I'm going to send her in there to get this for me because I can.
Literally,
I
that's what
don't
it felt
know.
like to me, but I don't know. It's
I don't
random.
know.
Um, so then she like looks at this potion and's like, all right, I'll chug you, whatever. She's like, this might be fun. But she doesn't leave the house before she just drinks
No.
it. She's just like, okay, I'll just chug it now. So then she starts growing gigantic inside of this house because she didn't have the
Hmm.
brain cells to just walk out with the potion in her hand.
Nope. She just and then she gets stuck in there.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's the practical side of me. The practical side of me reads it and goes, "Oh, that poor rabbit's house. Like she's so huge and her arms are hitting everything and her legs." And I'm like, she's gonna like break all of his stuff and destroy everything. He's gonna eventually get in there and be like, my house is a disaster. Like this
Yeah.
is me thinking practically like, oh, the mess that just made.
I was thinking that too, and I was like, he's gonna think
Okay,
he's
good.
been robbed. You know,
Right?
he's coming into his home after he just sent Marianne to go fetch something for him, and thinks that Marianne has now destroyed his home, his lovely, lovely home.
Yes. Marianne.
Yeah. So then, after a while, the rabbit comes back, and he's like, "Why is there an arm going through my window?" And he tries to have his buddy come and like take the arm away, and she, for some reason, in her logical brain, thinks the best course of action is to just try and snatch at the rabbit with her hand. For
Right?
some reason, I'm like, they're not gonna help you if you're mean to them.
I'm just gonna try and grab him. Maybe then he'll decide to help me. No, not how it works.
Yeah, literally. Like they're trying to get you out of there anyways. You're in his home. He pays money for that. He has a mortgage.
Right? Seriously.
So then their next course of action is they're like, okay, Bill, you're gonna go down the chimney and you're going to solve this problem for us. So then she hears that Bill's gonna come down the chimney, and what does she do? She
Oh,
decides to kick Bill out of the chimney. I'm like,
poor Bill.
Why would you do that?
This is like such a sad moment because all I can think is that poor little lizard,
I
poor
know.
Bill. He didn't do anything wrong. He's just trying to figure out what's going on and help his friend, the rabbit. He does not deserve to be kicked like that and shot out of the chimney over to who knows where, get like a concussion or whatever. Poor little guy. I felt bad for Bill.
All I'm imagining is okay, so I don't know if you've seen this, but on in Miami, all the chameleons got flash frozen and fell.
What?
Okay, it got really, really cold, and all of the chameleons got flash frozen in Miami and fell out of the trees. And I'm just imagining
Stop
that.
it.
No, and then they came back to life as they warmed up.
Stop. Oh
Please look this video up really quick because I
my
feel like you
gosh.
need to see it.
I need to look this up. Okay, if I put in like
Flash frozen
Miami.
chameleons in
Okay.
Miami.
It says it's so cold. Florida iguanas are falling from a
Oh,
tree.
iguanas. Whoops.
That is so weird.
And they like come back to life like little zombies the next day when they warm up.
Oh my gosh. That is the craziest thing I have ever seen.
So I was just imagining that Bill, the lizard,
Oh
got like after he was kicked out. Basically, in my head, he was
my
like flash
gosh.
frozen, like the chameleons, just stiff legging it.
That is
Like,
hilarious.
I was just imagining it was like a fainting
Oh
goat
my
situation.
gosh.
Like Bill was so surprised about getting kicked out. He just
That
kind of,
is so funny. Yeah, that's about what it would look like. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I listened to this after that all happened. This researcher was like, they didn't actually get flash frozen. They went into, because they were so cold, they actually went into a state of like sleep, I
Oh,
guess. Like they hibernated
okay.
because they were so cold to like make sure they don't die. But they all just fell out of the trees because it got so cold. They're like landing on the
Just
side.
can't. This is the funniest thing ever. I need to watch. There's a bunch of these. I'm
Oh
gonna
yeah.
totally watch more of these videos after we're
Do
done
it, do
because
it.
this is
Text me.
hilarious.
Yeah, they all just fell out of the trees. It was basically like on the news, it was saying that the headline was like, "It's raining iguanas."
That is too funny. This what to do if you come across a frozen iguana?
Yeah.
I can't. Oh my gosh, this is so funny.
I
Okay.
just that's what I was envisioning in my head, so I feel like you needed to watch it just to
Yes, thank you. That does give me a really good visual of that. And I am going to picture that now every time I read this and think or watch the movie.
good, good, good.
What I'm going to see.
So then they throw rocks at her that turn into little cakes, and she sees this mystical rock cake and she's like, "Yeah, I'll eat that." And then she eats it and she starts shrinking. And then she comes out and they want to ask her questions. And instead of like facing her problem, she sprints off into the woods. And for a second there, I was like, is this girl gonna go hungry? And I'm like, no, no, she's not, because she's
No.
eating every single thing and drinking every single thing she comes across. Like this
Yeah.
child will never starve.
No, she won't ever. She's good. She's all set.
Yeah, she's covered.
Mhm.
So then, as she's in the mystical woods, she runs into this gigantic puppy, and because she's like 10 feet, 10 inches tall again,
Yes.
and she distracts it with a stick. And instead of throwing the stick, she just runs from each side of the tree. I'm like, throw the stick. Throw the stick. It's so easy. Like it wants the stick. And she's like, why is it lunging at me? And I'm like, because you're playing keep away.
Right? He just wants to play, Alice. Apparently, Alice has never played with a dog before.
I guess.
So, I mean, well, she does say she has a cat. So she's got Dinah. We know this.
Yeah.
But apparently, she's not been around dogs very much.
Yeah. I
I don't
guess
know.
she's all like cats don't usually play fetch. So I guess she's never thrown a stick and
Maybe.
expected it to be retrieved.
I don't know.
I feel like with cats, you usually bring the toy to you and then it like
Yes.
chases the toy to you. So, okay, I can understand the confusion.
Well, it could also be too because she was little and the puppy was a lot bigger than her, too.
Yeah. I
That's what
mean, I
I
guess if
don't know.
I saw a gigantic dog, I'd be a little confused too.
Yes. But but it's funny because she she does that. She runs away from it, but then she's like, and yet what a dear little puppy it
I
was.
know.
So she's still like, oh, you're still so cute though.
I know. She's like 3 seconds away from being a snack, and she's like, "Oh, I was still, it's just." I mean, I'm that same way though. I see a bear, and I'm like, "Could I pet that bear?" And I'm like, "No,
No, no.
no, I could not." But every time I see
Touch the
like a
bear.
lion, a tiger, or a bear, oh my, I'm like,
But
I want to pet you.
I can't.
Yeah, but you will eat me.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, um, then on her journey that never seems to end, she comes
Mhm.
across this gigantic caterpillar. I don't know if it's a normal, it might be a normal sized caterpillar, but she's small, so she thinks it's a
Right.
giant caterpillar that's
Yes.
sitting on a gigantic mushroom. Again, same situation. We're not sure what sizing is here.
Right.
Somehow, this caterpillar has brought out a hookah. Like, I don't know if this caterpillar carries the hookah with them, like if they
I
somehow have a
know.
teleport, like not teleport, a travel to hookah, or if this
Mhm.
is its home and it stores the hookah underneath the
The mushroom.
yeah.
This was always one of those things that always got me because I'm like, why is the caterpillar smoking a hookah? Okay, I don't know if you've ever noticed this before.
Mhm.
Now, obviously, that's in the book. So this, I get it as far as the movie. But I don't know if Disney, if you look at like the old, like original
Hmm.
early Disney movies, like this one, and like Peter Pan,
Hmm.
even, and because Captain Hook smokes. Um, I don't know. There's a couple where like this type of thing. And I think you could have left that out.
Yeah.
Like, but yet Disney just doesn't really seem to care. They're like, we're making this movie for little kids, but it's okay. We're going to put this in about all these people smoking. Like, it's not a big deal for these little kids to see people smoking. And we wonder why there's an issue with people smoking.
Yeah. Well, it's like think about the time period too. Like during the time these movies were being made, they had that whole like campaign that like smoking make you skinny, smoking
Oh,
makes you
yeah.
sexy, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, no wonder that everyone's like obsessed with smoking. And,
Hmm.
you know, now everyone smokes and everyone's getting lung cancer.
Right.
Um, I'm
I
still
just,
so heated about the fact that we almost had smoking eradicated and then someone made e-cigs.
mm,
I could
yeah,
rant about that for days on days.
agreed. So could I. But still, I've always just because the funny thing with this one is he's the caterpillar. I mean, he's smoking a hookah. Like
Yeah.
he's not even
For what
it's not,
reason?
I just, like what is going on here? Is this what Lewis Carroll was doing while he was writing?
I
I
know,
think
but I'm
I
like,
think maybe.
I guess that like with for a being that either has lots of hands or no hands, I can't remember. Um, smoking a pipe just uses too many hands. You
Yeah,
know,
I guess so.
it's too small. Um, the only other alternative that's no hands long, easy accessible if you only have mouth, hookah.
All right. Yeah.
You
I never
smoke a
really
blunt,
thought
you
about
have
it.
to you have to pinch it, All
That's true.
these require too much hand control.
Oh man. Still, it's just a weird visual,
Yeah.
caterpillar up there smoking away on his hookah. It's like,
Do you
all right.
think a very high Lewis Carroll was probably looking at this hookah and like there was a second where he's like, caterpillar? Because it's long. If you think about the tubing on the hookah
Yes.
itself.
Yeah, I bet that's probably where that came from. That is a very good observation, Rachel.
As
Cool.
someone who's never consumed the weed, I
Mhm.
am really trying to put myself in this mind space that I have no
I
understanding
know.
of.
Well, I don't either, so I'm right there with you.
So, chapter 5, advice from a caterpillar. So, the caterpillar is like, "Yo, who are you?" And Alice is like, "I don't even know. I don't know who I am." And the caterpillar is like, "Okay, cut the nonsense. Who are you?" And
Mhm.
Alice is like, "I this morning I knew who I was, but now I'm not so much sure." And it's like they're talking in riddles, and I'm like, "Alice, just say your name. It's not
Right?
that hard." And then she's like, "You should tell me who you are." And he's like, "Why?" And she's like, "Hmm, good question."
Mhm.
So now the only next logical step is for the caterpillar to get her to recite poetry because that's the
Right?
only solution.
Like it's like, um, okay. Because I mean, she can't remember stuff. So he's like, well, how about you try and recite this? And of course, it just doesn't come out right. So yeah, we get another poem here.
Yeah, another hefty one. And
Yeah.
it's like they never go with like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. They always are like,
Mm-mm.
tell me the story of.
Oh, and let me tell you, there are more of these coming too. Like in the second book, there's a big story that I always remember being like, what is the point of this? And this is like, I actually would, it's not in the Disney movie, but it's in the like the one I told you about, the
Mhm.
1984, 86, whatever it is movie. And I remember like fast forwarding through it because I was always like, this is pointless. This is stupid. I don't want to. So yeah, Lewis Carroll just puts all these poems in here that are really big and Yeah, you just don't know what's happening.
Honestly, they kind of melt my brain. So like I read them a couple
Mm.
times and I still don't know what's going on. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm not even gonna try and sum up because I have no idea what this was about. So anyone that's listening and was hoping to get an interpretation of the poetry, I'm not an English major. I'm gonna tell you that up front. I have no idea when it comes to poetry. Like I tried to read Beowulf and that didn't go well.
Mm.
So
Well, that's a rough one, though.
yeah,
That's not exactly easy to interpret. But if anybody wants to try and interpret Old Father William here,
yeah.
help us.
Yeah, send that on Twitter. I do want a good explanation of each of his poems. We
Hmm.
will read it over and react to it, I guess. I don't know. Send it to us. It'll be fun. That's at barely bookish on Twitter. Um, so then she gets the poem wrong, and he's like, listen. And she's like, I think I might have got some things wrong. He's like, you got the whole thing wrong. And she's like, oh. So the other thing is, it's like now that I know that these are all wrong, I'm like, what were the originals? Because like these are pretty wild for a child to be coming
Right?
up with.
Right? Because you think about, I'm like, okay, I got like Jack Sprat could eat no fat. His wife could eat no lean. We get these like Jack be nimble, Jack be quick, Jack
Yeah,
jumped over a candlestick. This is what I grew up with, all these little nursery rhymes. And Alice has these like crazy poems.
I know.
I'm like, what happens over there in other countries? No, nothing against England, just kidding. But I just, was like, she definitely got a very different upbringing for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, I just want to know if these poems actually mean anything to anyone or if it's just like Lewis Carroll slowly losing his mind.
My bet would be on that one.
Yeah, same.
That's my guess.
So Alice is only 3 inches taller, and she's telling the caterpillar that she would like to be taller. And she's like, this is not a good height. And he's like, we're the same height. And she's like, uh, and then the caterpillar's like, well, Alice is like, well, I've gone through a lot of changes. And he's like, that you seem fine. And she's like, well, one day you're gonna become a butterfly, and that's gonna be a big change for you. And he goes, nope, it's gonna be great. Like I'm already prepared. And she's like, my life's harder than yours could ever be, and you just don't understand. She's trying to make this caterpillar
Oh my
understand her
God.
struggles. It's the caterpillar's just like, buddy, like you're fine. Things are fine. Everything's cool, chill, relaxed. And Alice is not getting it.
No, this is her very dramatic chapter.
Hmm.
Alice's dramatic moments are in this chapter.
Yeah. So then she's like, can I get taller? And then the caterpillar's like, look, I'll cut you a deal. One side of this mushroom makes you tall, one side makes it short. And she's like, oh, which size? And the caterpillar's like, peace, and leaves.
Right? Doesn't even tell her.
Yeah. So she's
Okay.
like, okay, great. So now I gotta figure this out. So she takes both pieces in her hand. This is the first logical thing she did. Nibbles a little bit on the right
Hmm.
side, and she starts to shrink rapidly. And then she just shoves the left side into her mouth and starts to grow. And then she just keeps biting each part until she gets to the height that she wants to be.
Yep.
And then I guess she puts them in her pockets.
Yes, she does.
And then, okay, so then she apparently turns in like it's not very clear, but she loses her shoulders and she's all neck. Um,
Yes.
and somehow she's got like this weird growth, and it's like it's getting a little horror movie vibes to me at this point. I'm like, this is terrifying. Like, I was trying to figure out, is she all neck, or is she just so tall, or is the food not digested yet? And it's only gotten to
Yeah.
the point where her head and neck have grown and nothing else has grown. Like, we're not really getting some, answers that I feel like we need.
Mm-mm. No,
So,
because yeah, it's just weird. Because the pigeon calls her a serpent.
yeah.
So she's obviously, I'm like, okay, so she's grown,
Mhm.
but she's like all neck apparently. And
Yeah.
where everything else is, who knows how far down.
Yeah, and she still, I guess, has a face, which is just horror movie to me because she's got this face on just a neck, and it's terrifying. I don't like snakes. I feel like
Mm-mm.
they don't have feet. They should be able to. They shouldn't be able to move. I don't like it. I don't like the wiggle movement.
Yeah,
No, I don't. I
mm-mm.
don't vibe with snakes.
Me either.
So I hated this. And then the bird's like, "Yo, I've been fleeing for serpents for 3 weeks. I haven't slept in 3 weeks. I just had my babies. I'm really just trying to relax. I thought being in the tallest tree humanly possible would, get me out of the situation.
Hmm.
Um, oh, wait, she's in the tallest tree possible. That means she's like 90 feet tall. That's why she's all neck.
Yes. That's super,
Oh,
that's crazy tall though.
yeah. Oh, I just put two and two together as I was talking.
Mm.
So yeah,
There we
she
go.
can't see her feet because human eyes are not meant to conceive 90 feet.
No, definitely not.
So there you go. That's the
All right.
rule.
We got it.
Um, so she's like, "Yeah, I'm not like here to eat you um at all." And she's like, "Well, are you gonna eat my eggs?" And she goes, "Well, I do like eggs." And the bird's like, and she's like, "But I don't eat raw eggs." And the bird's like, "Can you please leave?" Like,
It's like that whole thing with the mouse all over again,
yeah.
except now she's doing it with the bird.
I know. I'm like, this bird's just going through the trials of motherhood, trying its best to like survive in a world that's against it. And
Hmm.
she threatens to eat the children, not just eat them raw in front of the mother, but to fry them up, prepare them, salt and pepper them, add some of this magic mushroom, and then eat her children, her offspring.
She's just, yeah. She's Alice is just like digging herself into a hole
Yeah.
that she cannot get out of.
As if the overlord of this world isn't providing with her with proper food and sustenance. She can't help
Right?
but talk about the eggs that she likes to eat.
Oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
So then she's like, "Okay, I'm obviously too tall at this point." So this is actually the part where she nibbles on each side until she gets back to her
Hmm.
normal height. I thought this was earlier, but I skipped a little.
That's all right.
So then, she's normal height. She's got her mushroom. She puts them in her pocket and she's like, "All right, cool." Sets off out of the woods. And then she sees a house and she's like, "Oh, I don't want to scare them though." And shrinks again because that's the answer that we have.
Right.
So, chapter 6, Pig and Pepper.
Hmm.
So,
Here
Fish
we
Footman
go.
runs up to the door, which I guess there's no issue with like breathing for this fish.
Right? Like I've always thought about that too. Like why is this fish able to be on dry land
Yeah.
and be alive?
Yeah.
And it's okay. Like I don't understand how this fish lives. And he's he's got to be like walking on his tail. Is that
Yeah.
comfortable? I mean,
It can't
I
be.
don't know.
Or is it like half fish, half men? Head of fish, human feet.
Oh,
Or even worse, is he got like fins and he's just pulling himself, dragging himself across the land, scraping up his little tum tum. Someone give this man a skateboard to just
seriously.
scoot over.
Yeah, I can't. Okay, wait. I was curious because when you said, see, because it's been a while since I watched the movie,
Mhm.
and I was like, half fish, half man. Maybe he's got legs. Okay. So I started typing in fish footman. Immediately, fish footman and Alice in Wonderland popped up. Okay, he does have legs in all these images.
I mean, I
He's
feel
got the
like he
head of a
has to.
fish and like a man's body.
Okay, because like there's no other way this would work. If they said he
Mm-mm.
was running towards the door, so
Right.
in order
So
for
he
him to
can't have
run,
fins.
yeah, he can't have because otherwise he's like waddling like a little penguin, and that
Yeah.
we already know from penguin experience that they don't move very quickly.
No, not at all. Yeah, so he's like head of a fish, body of a man. But still, how is he breathing?
I don't know. I'm very concerned about the animals in this world.
There's a lot of reason for concern about these animals. A lot of strange things happen to them.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
there only seems to be one of their species that she ever encounters.
that's really true. I have never thought about that before. You are absolutely correct. There's like one of each of these things and no more.
Yeah, so how are
How
they like
weird.
populating this world?
I don't know. Wow. Oh
This
my
is what I'm here
gosh.
for, to ask the heavy
Rachel,
questions.
yes, very philosophical questions. I have never thought about that before. I mean, do they just never die? The people who already live there?
Or do they
Where
like asexual reproduction? Like, do they
frogs
just
can do that. Frogs
yeah.
can do that.
So does everyone in this world just produce that way?
I don't
Because
know.
apparently the Duchess had a pig baby,
Oh
so
gosh.
babies are supposed to be possible somehow. But is that the
Somehow.
first pig? Does she just create life on this planet?
I don't know. Lots of unanswered questions.
Yeah. I have a feeling I'm gonna go unanswered forever. So if
Mhm.
there's research papers about Alice in Wonderland, just send them in my inbox. I would love to see that. Yeah, because I got a lot of
Yes.
questions.
Yes.
Okay, so then Alice comes out of the woods, and the like this is after they had their little chat of the Duchess is gonna play with the Queen. The Queen wants to play with
Yes.
the Duchess. They're playing croquet. Everything's cool, and then the footman
Mm.
runs away. Then the other footman's just like sitting outside, and Alice is like knocks on the door, and he's like, "Well, I'm out here, like no one's gonna answer the door." And she's like, "Well, like, can I come in?" And he's like, "I don't know when I can come in." And she's like, "What do you mean?" And he's just like looking up at the sky. I think he's a frog. He's like
Yeah.
looking up at the sky, and she's like, "This man doesn't make eye contact." And the frog's just like, "Well, I might be out here for a couple days." And Alice is like, "I'm just like, can I go in?" And he goes, "You can do whatever you want." And she's like, "Cool, cool, cool." And then she just
All right.
walks into the Duchess's house.
Oh, she's like, I mean, he kind of gave her permission. So at least she had that. She's not like Goldilocks, at least, who just walks in to some random person's house and nobody's even there.
I mean, the frog, or yeah, the frog footman didn't specifically say no. So she's
Right.
like, "All right, sounds good." And then no one seemed surprised to see her in there.
No, that's like, and that's one of the weirdly, really weird things because she just walks in, the Duchess and the cook are in there, and the Duchess has the baby, and they're just like it does not even phase them that this random little girl just walked into their house.
Yeah,
It's
she's
perfectly
like,
okay.
"Hey, cool. Sounds good, I guess." And Alice is like walks in this room, and for some reason they like coated the air with pepper.
Yes, because the cook uses way too much pepper when she cooks and everything.
Yeah.
So she
I
uses
wasn't
so much that it's just everywhere.
I wasn't sure if it was actually that the cook was doing that, because she said she was like theorizing and she wasn't sure if it was the food, but like I was trying to figure out because she makes that whole song about pepper. So I'm like, are they trying to like gas this baby? Like,
No, because, well, this happens later. Do you want me to say it or not?
we'll bring it up.
I
We'll put a
won't.
pin in it right
Okay.
now.
I'll wait. It's mentioned later. It gets explained
Okay.
later in the book.
Okay.
So
Well,
you
next
yeah.
episode you guys will know.
Yes.
Okay, so then the Duchess is in the kitchen with the baby. They're making
Mhm.
soup for some reason. I don't think the Duchess has a duke, not a Dutch, a duke.
I don't think so either.
Again, there's only one allowed of any species for some reason in this universe.
Yep.
And so they got the baby, and Alice is like, "That's a weird baby." And then she looks at the cat and she's like, "That's a weird cat. Why is your cat smiling?" And the Duchess is like, "What do you mean? Your cat doesn't smile." And she's like, "No." And the Duchess is like, "Yeah, that's like a Cheshire cat. They all do that."
Mhm.
And like,
Like perfectly normal. We see
yeah,
this every day.
and like your cat's looking a little menacing over there, but whatever. I guess that's fine. Um, And then the saucepans hit the Duchess and the child, just smack them,
Yeah.
and the Duchess doesn't notice, and I'm like, "No wonder your child's crying, like, it's getting beaten
Uh-huh.
to death."
And no wonder the footman was like, I think I'm gonna stay outside for like 2 to 3 days.
Yeah, how often does this happen?
Right? I think it happens pretty frequently. Like I got the impression that this is a regular occurrence, something that
Yeah,
happens all the time in this house. It's just a weird house.
yeah, yeah, I don't and how does she have the authority to rule the land when this is what's going on at her home? But
Oh gosh. I don't know.
so then the Duchess is like, "Yo, can you watch my kid for a little bit so I can get ready for the queen?" And Alice is like, "Yeah, sure, fine." And then she's like looking at this baby. She's like, "This is the ugliest baby I've ever seen in my entire life." And then the baby turns into a pig and runs. And like before it turns into the pig, she's thinking about kidnapping this child. She's like, "I gotta get this kid out of here. Like, I don't know
Mhm.
how I can bring a kid back home, but like it's gonna happen." And then the pig runs squealing into the night. And I was like, that was weird. And the Cheshire cat shows up, and the Cheshire cat's like, "Hey, what's up?" And she's like, "Hey, I want to go somewhere." And the cat's like, "Okay, but where?" And she's like, "I don't know, somewhere." And he's like, "Well, then you're already going." And she's like,
Right?
"Hmm, okay." And then he points her in the direction of uh March Hare
Right.
and the Mad Hatter. And she's like, "Okay, I guess I'll go to March Hare's." Mad Hatter seems like a lot right now. And then the Cheshire Cat says, "Okay, but like what happened to the baby, by the way?" And she's like, "Oh, it turned into a pig." And he goes, "Yeah, I thought it was gonna do that." How often does this happen?
Apparently it happens a lot. I mean, by this point, apparently anything can happen in Wonderland and
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
because he's like, "Oh yeah, that's totally normal. I was expecting it to be a pig." Like, okay, great. So babies turn into weird animals here. Awesome. That's just great.
Now I kind of feel bad for the Duchess. Like she keep trying to have kids and they keep turning into animals and running off into the night. Like, is that how the Cheshire Cat was formed?
Oh, I wonder if it was. I
Yeah.
mean, it's possible,
Is
but
this why
he's
all
got
the animals
magical
can talk?
powers.
Yeah, I guess that kid turned out a little better. I don't know.
I don't know.
So yeah, so then she's like, "Okay, I'm going to March Hare's yeah, March Hare's house.
Hmm.
Leave it over there." And she's like, "It's not March, so he's probably in a good mood, right?" Because that's how things work. I don't know. S-
Oh,
That's all the chapters we have. Interesting
yep.
start. I got a lot of
Yes.
questions about this world.
I'm sure you do. And I'm afraid that I have to tell you that the more you read, the more questions you're going to get. It's just that type of book,
I
you
really
know.
feel like I should read them drunk, you know? And like I feel like
I
we'll get on the
mean,
same wavelength.
it couldn't be any worse. I mean, now, don't get me wrong. I say that everybody listening, I love these books. I actually like absolutely love Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. It's super fun. But yeah, again, what was Lewis Carroll doing when he was writing these stories? Drinking, drugs. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know.
I mean, I'm into it. Don't get me wrong, I'm into it. I just got a lot of questions and I want to know what he was on and like
Hmm.
how is he doing, you know?
Agreed.
Cuz this a lot. It's also to me it's my just sometimes I read classics and I have this moment of being like you can honestly publish anything and in 100 years they're going to be like, "Yeah, it's a classic. It's
Right?
great. It's our standard of literature." Because if you think about it, you publish this book now, and people are going to be like, "What kind of crack was this man on? Like, who's going to read this?"
Right? I don't know. Well, and he says like it was written like inspired by a little girl who he knew
Yeah,
whose name was Alice, and he wrote the story for her.
yeah.
I don't know.
I guess they didn't
It's
like
just
have a
weird.
basis for publishing. They were just kind of like, "Yeah, get it out there. Okay, send on its
It
way."
sounds good. Great. It's a kid's story. It's fine. Well, I can't say that. Never mind. Because that happens at the end of the book. Never mind. Never mind.
Next
We'll talk
episode,
about
write
that
it
next
down.
time.
It's. I
Yes.
feel like this is the same vibe of making "Ring Around the Rosie" a children's nursery rhyme.
Yes.
You know.
Right. Because it's about what was it, the plague or something? Or what?
Mhm.
Yeah. Hmm.
They literally talk about like rat poison and stuff, and they're like, "Ah, kids
Yeah.
will notice."
It's fine. It's fine. No, it's not.
Yeah. So that's all we have for this episode. Leah, where can all the people of the internet find you and your podcast?
Well, YA Book Chat is available on pretty much every podcasting avenue. Anywhere you get your podcast, you can find it. I am also on Instagram, YA Book Chat, and Facebook, but I'm a lot more active on Instagram. So that's really the better place to follow me. Yeah. And there is a link in my Instagram bio that has links to all the things like Patreon, merchandise, all the fun stuff.
Yeah. And their podcast is very, very good. So
Thank you.
yeah. So you guys will enjoy it. If you're enjoying this Alice in Wonderland episode, you're gonna enjoy your podcast.
And
So
you guys should all listen to the episode that Rachel was on when we talk about the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
yes, a very, very good book that I wasn't sure was gonna be good, but it ended up being very good. I loved it.
Me too.
But yeah, we will catch you guys in the very next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Barely Bookish podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and next week we will be continuing on with even more Alice in Wonderland. After we finish Alice in Wonderland, we will be talking about Through the Looking Glass, and then we will be watching the Alice in Wonderland movie after we finish both of them so we can compare both. And the one we are watching is like the CBS straight to TV movie. It's came out in like I think the 80s. But it's a really good adaptation. I'll talk more about it before we actually release those episodes. But yeah, I hope you guys are going to enjoy it and enjoy having Leah from YA Book Chat. If you haven't listened to her, please go listen to her. Not only did I talk about A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but we also talked about Fable. And then on her Patreon, we talked about Namesake. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Barely Bookish podcast. Our theme song was by Raphael Crux on freepd.com. My logo was designed by my little sibling Sarah. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!